So no further ado, I want to introduce John.
Good afternoon. So I want to give you a little background on who I am and give you some idea of what kind of this because I can't hear myself.
Closer.
Closer.
There you go.
I get it. See, too many table saws and stuff.
Is that one part? And then the tent?
This is a log that I bought about 6 years ago, and I turned it into a wooden chain. So that chain is carved from one piece of wood. And I just want to give you a little bit of idea of what kind of wood sculpture I do. As I just said, I'm mainly a wood sculptor. And I live in a little town in Massachusetts. In the playbill here it says I'm a sculptor and installation artist. I also do occasional performing arts works. So I not only perform for my photographer with a chain thrown over my shoulder in a historic area, but I also did a performance with a chain in an old elevator on a gallery night in our local city. This piece was called Progeny. It was about the weight of being a parent. And I was sitting in an old elevator shaft, and I covered myself with baby oil and fireplace ashes, and the gallery owner and my wife wrapped me in the chain, and I sat there for 2 hours while people came through and said, "What is that? How did they make it so real?" And I had to sit there and listen to this. It was like, yeah, it's breathing. And I was hit for 2 hours. So that's just an idea of some crazy stuff that I did. Okay, that's where we are, in case you forgot. That's where I'm from. It's Mattapoisett, Massachusetts is a seacoast town, 6,000 people, swells up to 12,000 people in the summertime. Right near the Cape, about 15 miles from the entrance to Cape Cod. That's where I lived for 30 years, so I'm back in Maryland. The feds were here earlier, the feds are still here. You've been infiltrated by the National Security Agency, which is where I worked for 28 years. Relax, cell phones weren't even in existence when I retired. I lived in the Annapolis area for 30 years, took an early retirement, went back to school in Baltimore to study art for a while at the Maryland Institute. Got myself accepted to the University of Massachusetts graduate school in sculpture, and that's why I moved to Massachusetts and got my master's in fine arts there, and I'm still there. So that's where I'm working from. And this is not a picture taken from the dessert bar out there, because I couldn't believe it. There's a dessert out there that's very close to the blueberry crumble bars, which took me by surprise. I was making dessert when the phone rang one day. I was up in Massachusetts where you saw that X. And my hands were kind of full, but I said, it was from Philadelphia, and it wasn't an 800 number, so I said, okay, I'll answer it. And the voice at the other end introduced himself as a guy by the name of Joe Kim, who was in charge of clinical innovation at Eli Lilly and Company. He had seen a permanent exhibit of mine at the Fox Chase Cancer Center in Philadelphia. He had looked at my work, my body of work online, and he wanted to know if I'd be willing to partner with Lilly to create art to raise clinical trial awareness. Before I could even respond to that, he went on to explain what I didn't understand that well at the time, is the importance of clinical trial participation in the development of new medicines. And if people don't sign up, then medicines take much, much longer before they can be approved and put out into the world to make people feel better. The weakest link is awareness. Most people of the general population don't even know that clinical trials exist, much less if there's a clinical trial that applies to their particular disease. So Joe wanted to know if maybe art could help close that gap a little bit. I've done a lot of health-related artwork. I do lots of other work. That's why I showed you the chain. I do things that are very different from health work, but I've done a lot of health work. And what Joe had seen at Fox Chase Cancer Center, these are a few of the pieces that he saw. It's an exhibit about ovarian cancer. This piece is called Echo, about the triumph of overcoming, or at least living with, the disease. I created an egg that's an 8-inch egg covered with 46,000 pinheads sitting on a bed of the cutoffs. It's about hair loss, sort of. These are female IV bowls. For those of you that are art students, it's in the same form as the Workers of Calais by Rodin. It's also Giacometti forms. You can tell it was fresh out of art school when I did this. And this is a bronze cast of a body cast taken at the height of chemotherapy and turned into a helmet and a shield to protect the woman's most vulnerable parts. But I do other work. I've done environmental installations, such as this Buzzards Bay Preservation Group. I've done a traveling exhibit addressing economic inequality that's gone from New England to Alabama and points in between. And I help corporations with their visual identity with sculptures in their welcome areas and lobbies, and also people in their homes who like to identify their home with themselves. And these are some other health-related ones I've done. This is a mobile of sails in a hospital lobby. This is one sail. There are 6 ships represented. It's just the sails, no hulls, no mast, just the sails blowing in the wind, and it's called hope. Because everybody that enters a hospital has an expectation of some kind. And another hospital center, this is the tree pose. For those of you that practice yoga, this is the tree pose of inner strength. And it looks out over the healing garden of the hospital. And we were talking about our people that were on, it was the woman that came up with the magazine earlier, was talking about art in hospitals. These 2 hospitals actually use only local artists. It's so great. It's not commercial prints of boring flowers. It's real paintings of nice flowers by real artists and sculptures by real artists. It's a fantastic thing that they've done, and I've been privileged to be invited to go to both of those with my installations. So back to the phone call, I know what art can do. I know what it can do on health-related issues. And particularly for clinical trials, I was convinced already that it can help raise awareness, it can inspire people to action through that awareness, and at least have them look into clinical trials, if not participate in them. But also, it can empower them, that was talked about earlier, the empowerment of validating the patients. There are lots of art exhibits around the country and the world that address particular diseases. I even did one, we showed it to you. But I know of no other exhibit that addresses clinical trial participation and honors and validates and empowers the patients that are giving of themselves to develop new medicines regardless of the disease that they're in. It's a big world, there must be an exhibit someplace that addresses that, but I don't know of one. But then Joe, who called me, exploded my imagination. He said, oh, and whatever we do, it's got to be crowdsourced. By that he means the patients must participate in the art. The art can't be finished unless there is a physical object from the patient included in the art. Whoa, I'm still feeling my blueberry crumble bars, and with a phone here, and my wife looking at me, and she's like, what's this call about? And I said, I'm in. Oh, this is great. I'm going to play. So he came to my studio, brought a guy by the name of Ken Saban with him, and Ken's the project leader, or the team leader they call him, and it's principally Ken that I've been working with since. But I've also been working with Leanne Nassis, who's in the back here from Lilly, and with Jerry Matzak, that's also here from Lilly. They're my client, and that's who I've been working with. And I was commissioned, and we began. So turning to the patient and my own experience being around a lot of health-related issues, I went to the journey. Now everybody uses the word journey for all sorts of medical situations. But what I was thinking about was a little more than that. I was thinking about the fact that patients don't travel alone. They're not journeying all by themselves out there. They may feel alone, hopefully they don't. But they're surrounded by family and friends, doctors, nurses, caregiving teams, all the way out to basic researchers that none of us will ever even meet, that are chemists and biologists and administrators that make medical development even possible. They're all traveling with that patient. And the patient's travel follows a pattern that's fairly common. First, their life is disrupted by a diagnosis. Heard stories this morning. You know the stories. They're thrown into this mysterious thing called the medical world, where challenges and crises await them, surgeries, permanent quality of life changes, difficult treatments. These are the crises that are bringing them to a transformation to eventually not accept, but create their new normal. And I cleared this with Ben. Because each patient, as you heard at the panel today, all of them created their own version of their new life, because the old life is never coming back. It's going to be forever altered. Now this is a familiar cycle. This cycle of storytelling has been known throughout the history of humanity. It's been an oral and written tradition across the globe forever. And this has been recognized by the mythologist, the famous mythology scholar, Joseph Campbell, who gave it a name. He called it the hero's journey. Now, if this sounds familiar to you, it's because it is. This is a storyline that's used in all, or a cycle of telling that's used in all stories. Luke Skywalker was on the hero's journey. In fact, George Lucas and Joseph Campbell were friends. And when he was writing Star Wars, George Lucas followed the hero's journey perfectly. Luke Skywalker didn't want to go on his journey until he found his aunt and uncle murdered. And he went. Obi-Wan had to convince him, found his aunt and uncle murdered. He went into his journey. He went into his version of surgeries and treatments called the Death Star and the trash compactor. They went through transformations. He had allies, Obi-Wan, Yoda, R2-D2, Han Solo, they're all there. Transformation, success, brings home the gold in the form of his newly created future, but then the story continues, as you know. Same story for Odysseus and the Odyssey, same story for Dorothy and Oz, Alice in Wonderland. Pick your story, you can follow this cycle right on through. So that's what I wanted to do, was follow the patient's path. Follow the community through the path of clinical trials in some way. So as I was kicking around all kinds of crazy ideas, as we artists do, most of which really sucked, it was Leanne, who is in the back there, who said in a meeting, well, if we're going to talk the path, why don't we use cairns, little piles of rocks that are along paths that you see through the woods or along the beach that mark the way. And that was the hook I needed to start thinking about what the art would look like. So I thought about taking the image large. And I thought of one of my favorite sculptors, Andy Goldsworthy's work, and these pieces that are put all over the world by not just Andy, but lots of people put these like over the Alps to mark ways over those, to mark important places around the globe. Except these are stone and I'm a wood guy. So what I'm creating are 3 large wooden sculptures that look like Karen's, that look like Andy's work, sorry Andy, that are going to be 8 feet tall, like 4.5 feet diameter, hollow, on lighted bases, with bright light coming up through and radiating out the openings. We use some black on the scale models. There'll be openings for light to come out. And they'll be made of wooden blocks. Now I've got a vehicle to give to the community that they can do something with and give back to me, and I can incorporate in the art. So, to make that work, we invented the One Brick Your Voice campaign. I've made thousands of these little suckers. These things are going to be distributed by Lily throughout the clinical trial community to patients, family, friends, not to everybody, they're made available because we can only handle so many. To patients, family, friends, researchers, doctors, nurses, researchers at Lilly, are all going to be invited to participate in the art. They can personalize this in any way they wish. They can write a poem on it, they can design it, they can write something on it, they can stick a photo on it, draw on it, paint on it, carve it, anything.
Change the shape of it, carve.
They can carve it. I'll get it in there. Okay? Yeah, you can do anything I want with it, send it back, and I'll include it in the art. And that's how we're going to crowdsource it. Now, to make it happen, we have to have a way to distribute these. There's some logistics. So my studio partner, who's also my wife, invented the Journey Pack. She designed this thing out of thin air. And this is the Journey Pack, the One Brick Your Voice campaign. I'm going to put this down for a minute. But it's designed to be and intended to be casual. Thank you. Casual, friendly, welcoming, not clinical and serious. It's an art kit. And play. I mean, people got enough to think about with their disease. Let's give them an outlet. Let's validate them. When they open it, there'll be their brick, of course, but there'll also be an invitation from me describing the project, asking them to participate. When they're finished with their brick, this is a little return mailer inside. You close it up, seal it, throw it in the mailbox. It'll have a return sticker on it that'll come back to me free of charge. And then I'll put it in the art. And it'll go into one of those spaces you saw on the project. Thanks. So that's how the awareness campaign begins, is by spreading the bricks around. But that's only the beginning. Now we want people to engage and share. Because it's not about the brick. It's about awareness of trials. That's what we're trying to get to. So Lily has nailed down a website that's going to go live this summer, heroesjourneyart.com. We're working on a documentary. In fact, there's me on camera with the crew making bricks. They are following the project along. They'll be interviewing people that are involved. They'll be recording the art as it grows over this summer and into the fall. And there'll be a social media campaign with a hashtag and participation of the community who will share their work. You can follow along on the website, you can follow the documentary, and then you can put the word out yourself through your own media. And that's how we intend for it to grow out and spread out. But one of these days, the art will be finished, and it has a role. It's got an awareness job. It's going to go to public spaces. Lily's going to put it, it's going to actually, the current plan is to split it up, so each sculpture will go to a public space someplace in the country that's very, very visible, that will attract, with lots of traffic, that will attract people to it, where they can come up close, look through it, look inside, look at all the writings inside and out that I've put there. They can see our collective voice validating and empowering the patients on their journey of developing new medicines. There will also be information there. There'll be, the current thinking is, there'll be like iPads there where they can look at the video, but they can also find out information about clinical trials, or where to go get more information about clinical trials. And that's how it'll work. But there's one more thing. I didn't talk about this in the journey pack. This is a cast representation of one of the sculptures. I designed it. It's been individually crafted in my studio and initialed on the bottom by me. Everybody who gets a journey pack gets one of these as a thank you from us, the collective us, for participating in the project. But you too are on the hero's journey. You too are in the clinical trial community. So my wife and I made one for each of you too. Thank you for doing what you do. So in the back, there's a canvas bag. It's a little hard to pass them out here, but in the back is, there we go, Leanne's got it. And in there, for each of you, there's a little box with a thank you note and one of these for you. So, what do Blueberry crumble bars have to do with clinical trial awareness? For me, I mean, maybe for you, nothing, but most of you, but for me, what it is will always be a symbol of an opportunity I had to work with Lily on a really innovative art project that will make a difference. You know, and I'm honored and thrilled to be part of that. And so that's what we're doing. So, I'm going to go off script now. Everything I set up to now is done as a partner sponsored by Eli Lilly and Company. So I want to tell you a few things because this is the kind of group it is. My most serious medical impairment is that I nicked the tip of my thumb once about 10 years ago on a table saw.
Well, that'll do it, brother.
And that's it. That's all I got.
That's
all I got. And but the only thing I have to deal with is, buttoning a shirt is hard. I mean, come on. I'm 70 years old. I still run half marathons. I have great health. I am very, very lucky. This is all I've got. But I've been surrounded by lots of others. I know your stories. I did that cancer exhibit because my late wife died of ovarian cancer. My current wife has very serious Crohn's disease. Corey mentioned that she does. We talked about that a bit. I know the story. Fatigue, 4 major surgeries. My wife has an ileostomy. She had that a number of years ago, which gave her quality of life back, but then the Crohn's disease struck her remaining colon. Had to have that removed. Then it struck her anus. Had that removed. Her comment? One less asshole in the world. Have I been shut off yet?
No, we got some F-bombs thrown in here.
Okay. MS. My next door neighbor is in his early 50s, confined to a scooter. My son was in a serious auto accident, not his fault. OxyContin led to heroin, led to jail. He's now on full disability, Social Security. I've seen the stuff. I don't know what it feels like. I know I don't know what it feels like, but I've been very close to it. It's important that we recognize that all diseases carry pain and suffering. Some of them are invisible. My next door neighbor tells me that being in a wheelchair is like being invisible. My wife says that being compared to my late wife, who had cancer, and she's got Crohn's disease, is like being invisible. We heard, she's not here now, I don't even know her name, talking about MS earlier, and being invisible. We have to recognize that everybody suffers from different things, and we have to start recognizing that they all need validation, they all need empowerment, they all need to be loved.